find purpose. And I feel like we're going through pretty chaotic times right now. So you might be one of those people that are kind of like lost in your mental state. You don't really know necessarily maybe what you're doing with your life, and that's totally fine. We're all in this boat together. But we're going to have some pretty special guests that are coming in on the podcast today, and they're very knowledgeable about the realm of spirituality and I guess tapping into that higher purpose / higher consciousness. And hopefully some of the things that they shared with us here on this podcast today can serve as some kind of guidance for those of you guys that feel lost. Our first guest is my very close friend, Risa. Would you like to say hi, Risa?
Hi, YouTube.
Hello.
Hi, guest.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining our little podcast today. We like to refer to Risa as like the spiritual goddess because every time we have, I guess, like she's such a pure soul, first of all, to begin with. And whenever we're like going through like hectic times, we kind of come to her because her intuition and her energy is pretty strong, and it usually helps us kind of navigate through our thought processes, how we're feeling. So, yeah, we're currently in her vibe room. Give us a little description of the vibe room we're in.
First off, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Of course.
Secondly, so my vibe room is like where we all come to hang out. There's a lot of pillows on the ground. There's a gong. There's a sound bowl. We'll be using those for special effects. There's like a swing hammock that like we just hung the other day.
There's like a Buddha poster. There's like a Hamza hand. There's crystals.
There's plants.
Her tarot card. It's just good vibes. We come to this room and we literally just vibe. And I'm so glad that we actually got the chance to make this specific podcast in this room. I wouldn't want to do it anywhere else. So thank you for having us, Risa.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So you guys can actually follow Risa on Instagram. Her Instagram is at Risa's Pieces. And then she also runs an astrology Instagram. It's at angrysunsadmoon. So Risa is like this pure soul. She's like the spiritual guru. And I kind of want to ask her, Risa, how did you yourself get into this journey? Like, how did you discover that, hey, like, I love this, like, I love astrology. I love tarot cards, because every time we have a problem, we go to her and we're like, can you
check your transits?
Exactly. And so how did all of this, I guess, initiate for you?
Well, growing up, I was really fortunate to have parents who instilled in my brain from a young age, like about consciousness, karma, like the energy you give to the universe is the energy you receive back, which all really shaped me to be who I am. But it wasn't until I was 18 that I seriously decided to start studying like tarot cards and astrology. And then once I like went down that rabbit hole into like self-discovery and like really just using it to like help myself evolve as a person, it kind of brought me back to spirituality and how I can incorporate the two for a way that really works for me. And I've really just been able to use it to like connect with like my inner self and like my deeper being and like really unpack like who I am as a person. And like there's so many tools that you can use to do that, but like those are just some things that work for me. But it wasn't until I started really like learning about those that I dove deeper into this. And I've been doing it for about, well, since I was 18. So like
3 years,
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 years now.
Oh, wow.
Dude, I'm so old.
Well, I think I've definitely noticed that in you. Like, I feel like you have a layer to yourself that I feel like a lot of people don't. And I think that's what's kind of drawn me to you, like, when I am going through something. Because, you know, like, I consider myself someone who doesn't really approach things on a very, like, energy. More recently I have, but prior to, I guess, even like being friends with you, I would just kind of look at things from like pros and cons list, you know, like analytically. And sometimes just using logic it doesn't get the job done. Like, I still don't really know how to like handle, like pick apart my emotions and how certain things are affecting my frequency. These are all terms that I feel like it falls into this jargon of spirituality. Would you say?
Yeah, no, your frequency and like the energy you emit to the world is really powerful and like really helps with like manifestation and things like that. And also just like your mindset and like what you attract. And it's so much, like it's literally a rabbit hole, but it's insane.
I think it's a good rabbit hole to get lost in. It's like, because it does kind of fall into each individual's interpretation of it too. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a set of rules that you have to follow at all, I feel like.
Oh no, and that's the awesome part about it. Like, it's really like
Customizable.
Yeah, no, customizable 1,000%. There's so many different things like you can do, like yoga practices, kundalini practices, meditation. Like, I work with crystals, I do astrology and tarot. Like, there's so many different avenues that you can take, and you can really tailor to yourself and like discover what you like, what you don't like. And like, it really isn't a one size fits all, and that's like the fun process about it. Like, there's so many different things that you can do.
Mm-hmm. So you've kind of touched on the fact that your parents kind of nurtured you into this lifestyle. You
Mm-hmm.
said that they brought this into your life.
Mm-hmm.
But how about someone like, for example, myself, who's, I guess the way I was raised has nothing to do with spirituality. It wasn't really a topic of conversation even in my household.
Mm-hmm.
I think like even the stuff I've learned from you, I've gone home and like try to explain to my own parents.
Mm-hmm.
How would you, I guess, what are some tips you could give to people who are so distant from this type of thinking process?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, like, first things first, like, go into it with an open mind and really be open to like discovering things about yourself that you maybe wouldn't have thought about before, like the way your mind works and like the way your consciousness works and things like that. Keeping a journal has really helped me in that avenue of like self-reflection and going back. But really, one thing that's really helped me is reading.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many good books that you can read about spirituality that can like open you up to a lot of different things. But really good book recommendation, The Untethered Soul. Amazing book. For me, I first started reading it when I was like first like going in on my spiritual journey, I guess we could call it. And like, it really just helped me like shift my mindset as well as like my perspective from being like the person who experiences life into like the viewer watching the experience. It's really hard to explain, but like if you read the book, you'll understand.
Uh-huh.
But like, it's really good for like shifting your consciousness and like helping get rid of that little voice in your head that like
Mm-hmm.
isn't really like your voice, if that makes sense. Another book as well, Spirituality Aside, The Four Agreements. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's just a book everyone should read for like just understanding like how to work through the world and like just live a better life.
The Four Agreements?
Yeah, The Four Agreements.
I saw that book on TikTok. Like, someone was like,
I know, it's getting so much hype now.
I know, that's good. We need
No,
more
it's
people
awesome.
to learn about this stuff.
I love that TikTok's like blowing up with like spirituality and the mic.
Our mic had
Our
a
mic
little
dropped.
accident. Mic drop on its own. We didn't even do it.
But like, yeah, I love that it's blowing up on TikTok and like people are like kind of discovering more about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like it's more accessible now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was always accessible, but it's like now it's being produced in a way to like kids who are younger and
Mm-hmm.
like
more traditional methods, I
yeah,
guess.
giving them like the tools to really like.
Maybe it's also
Open
has
the
to do
door.
with the fact that like we are at a point in the world right now where a lot of people feel trapped. A lot of people are stepping out of that like autopilot, especially with all of like, you know, corona and everything. I think it's helped everyone take a step back and kind of be like, whoa, this was my life, and I hadn't like, I was kind of in sleep mode, like I was just going with the flow, like the routine, and something happened to us where the normal we had known was gone, and not, and in a way where it was challenging for us. So now we're trying to scout out ways to see like how we can deal with these emotions. You touched on like reading, and I think a book that first made me think about like the law of attraction and the energy I was bringing into the world is The Power of Now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like crazy that when you actually verbalize things that you want in your life, the things that you want to change, it's in a magical way, it's easier for it to come true.
Fully. I do this thing called scripting where it's like, it's in my book over there, but it's like, it's basically a form of manifestation where like you feel the energy that like you're trying to cultivate in your life. And like, say for example, like, okay, this is a really funny one. I was really unhappy at my school in Miami, and I just like learned about scripting, and I was like, okay, like I really like, I think I want to go home, and I think I want to go start school at UCLA. And the very first thing I wrote, and I remember I was in like the happiest mindset, and I was like, I'm so happy, like I just got into UCLA for like fall 2020 as a
And
transfer.
you had
and
it,
I had
right?
this was in November, so like
Uh-huh.
before I had even applied,
Uh-huh.
or it was in October, November, but it was before I had even applied. And then it rolls around, and I apply, and I got in, and I was like, and it was just like really nice to like go back and look at that and be like, holy shit, I did that.
Mhm.
And there's like other things I wrote in there too that like I won't share, but like it's all like just
Stuff that's slowly coming true.
successfully manifested in my life. And I've just been like, like it's such a life hack that everyone should know like how to do, and like it really is like a super invaluable resource.
And I think a lot of people are like, how is me writing what I want in a notebook actually going to help make it true? But I think visualizing something, trying, like what you said, like kind of trying to kindle those feelings or emotions that you would naturally feel if it had, come true, is like the first step of ever knowing like what you would feel like if it did come true. I think it directs where your life goes.
Literally, because you're putting out that energy into the universe, and like it's all just a reflection. Like, so it's like what you give out is what you get back. So it's like if you're constantly in that state of like on a high and like just really good things, and like you're focused on doing the right thing, and you're focused on making the right moves and things like that, like everything just really comes to you, and like you're kind of in a state of like abundance, and like it's just amazing. But like you have to be, another key for it is like you really have to be grateful for where you are.
I think what you said about being grateful for where you are, it has a little bit to do with awareness and consciousness. And I remember the first time I would like we say elevated awareness. What does that really mean? For me, it was when I first started acting class, which has nothing to do with spirituality when you like look at it from like a black and white perspective. But when I first started acting class, we would put aside 30 minutes of class and just into meditation. And for me, I was frustrated. I'm like a go, go, go. Like, let's do this, pros, cons, logical mindset. I was. And I was like, why are we spending almost 30 minutes of class? I'm paying so much money for this class. Why am I just sitting, meditating, breathing? Like, I don't understand how it's going to help me. And I think my acting teacher, his method was just, you have to strip yourself of all of these thoughts that are clouding your head, and you need to reach like this blank canvas, this like purest form of you. And once you do that, you can step into someone else's shoes and act that role, right? So I think that was the first time where I was like, wow, like there is me, and then there are my thoughts, and there are the things that are pulling me down, and like the things that I'm trying to handle and go through. And once I put these things that are clouding my head aside, which is essentially what meditation is, it's being in the moment, not focusing on what am I going to do after acting class, not focusing on why am I paying so much money for acting class when I have to, why am I just breathing, like when you put all those things aside, it kind of strips you down to the rawest form of yourself. And maybe for some people it's hard to connect the dots of like, how is breathing in and out going to help me manage my thoughts, like manage this clouding in my head? So what are some practices that you can recommend for beginners who want to start getting into meditation, and some people who just have a hard time like not being able to think of anything, like overthinkers, overanalyzers, those of us who struggle with I guess putting away our thoughts sometimes?
Definitely start small. When I was first getting into meditation, I would set a timer for like 10 minutes a day. And honestly, 10 minutes is so like feasible for doing what you want to do. And because like I know people who meditate for like an hour to 2 hours, which thinking about it, like when you first start off, you're like, oh my God, like how can I do that for that long? Like even sometimes like a 30-minute meditation feels like a long time for me. But starting off, I definitely recommend like doing 10 minutes a day. Like it'll just really help clear your mind. But also like a really helpful tip is like put on sound healing in the background. Like there's
Just
this,
on YouTube?
Yeah, no, there's this YouTube channel, really great, called Meditative Mind, and they have like different sound frequencies you can listen to. So like there's some for manifestation, there's some for opening your chakras, there's even some for sleep, which like I fall asleep to like a baby. So I use those. But if you do that while you're meditating, for me at least, I find that it really helps like get me into that meditative state and like let go of my thoughts. But also like meditation is hard at the end of the day when you have so much going on in your life and like the outside world is so chaotic and so noisy. Like I know for like myself especially, like I was literally crying the other day over the state of the world because it was just like sometimes it's just so much.
Yeah.
And like it's really
been there, done that, girl.
Yeah, it's literally like a call to like step back and like really just check in with yourself. But also like if you have those intruding thoughts, like the best advice I can give is like acknowledge it, be aware of it, say, okay, I hear you, and then like just kind of let it go, and then like go back to like focusing on your breath, because like the more you try and fight it, the more intruding it will be. And after a while, like it'll become like second nature. It'll get really easy to like slip into that space. It'll get really easy to just let go, and then next thing you know, you're meditating for 45 minutes and it feels like a second.
And I think a valuable skill that you gain from meditation is you sometimes throughout the day, you don't realize all the thoughts that are popping into your head.
It's insane.
It's like it's so much, and it's so overwhelming, and it takes a toll on you truly. And what I realized from meditating, like from my acting class and the skills I gained from that, is you start realizing it when it starts happening in your everyday life. Like let's say I'm at the supermarket, right, and I'm waiting in line and I have a bajillion things going through my head. Like I have to do this, oh my god, is my parking meter running out, like blah 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 blah, all these things that are going through my head. And when I'm like, okay, this is just like when I was meditating and I couldn't focus on the moment. I'm so busy focusing on the past and the future, what's going to happen. But what about right now? We forget that we are human beings. Like we're being in the moment. We have to be in the present moment. And I think it really truly like shows you that you can push those thoughts away. You can focus on the right now. And that's when you like start enjoying life, when you're like in the moment and you're like, oh, I'm, let's say, in a car with my friends listening to music right now. I don't have to be thinking about what homework assignment I have due tonight. Like I'm here right now. I'm not going to be able to like snap my fingers and go home and do my assignment anyway. So let me enjoy what I have right now. And some hacks, I guess, for while meditating is I would envision my breath. I would like assign a color to my inhale and my exhale. Just like
that's really helpful.
It is. And what I would do is like, for example, like pink or blue, like energizing colors that I like, that I feel like I associate with good things. Whenever I breathe in, I would like imagine the breath, like the oxygen particles or whatever going through, as like little pink or like blue particles. And then when I like breathe out, I would imagine it as like black or gray, like leaving my body. And I think like when you're thinking of that, you in a way kind of stop thinking about what you're gonna have for dinner that night, you know, like those thoughts kind of like leave on their own, which is, it's a nice little tactic.
It is. It's so helpful.
I've never done that, but now I'm gonna try. You definitely should. I feel like it helps. So I want to ask you, how has getting in touch with this new level of awareness, this awareness of, oh, I'm overthinking right now. I think even the ability to say, like, I'm overwhelming myself right now with thoughts that are bringing me down, even the ability to say that shows that you have taken a step back to kind of like look at yourself from an outside perspective. You've gained this consciousness. You've left that autopilot mode. And I want to ask you, like, how has that affected your daily life, you as a human being? How has everything you do, the manifestations, the tarot cards, the crystals, these are all things that require you to like analyze your life from almost like a third person's point of view. So what are the benefits that you've seen arise from this?
Well, for me personally, I am a completely different human being from like who I was even a year ago, which is like so amazing to me, because it's like I'm in this constant state of evolution and constant state of like really wanting to get better and really wanting to like improve myself and be that person that I want to be in the world, and like hopefully be a role model for other people to want to do that for themselves.
I'm your project.
You're my project right now. But it's really just made me like be okay with life at the end of the day. Like it's really taught me about divine timing, and like everything that does happen is happening for a reason. Mm-hmm. And it's all for like your self-betterment, and it's all like to teach you these really like insightful and knowledgeable things. Like, and it's really just made me aware of my energy as well, like what I'm giving out to the world, where my energy is going to like other people, whether it's like I'm exerting too much of myself mm-hmm. when I shouldn't be, and when I should be more focused on myself, and when I should be focused on like a project or a friendship or anything like that. But also like I really want to touch on this, but like spirituality at the end of the day, like it's not all love, light, and like butterflies and happiness. Like
for me personally, I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, it really isn't. Like mm-hmm. a lot of it is about reprogramming like your unconscious thoughts and becoming aware of like your traumas and your triggers mm-hmm. and like how to heal from them, so like you can help yourself and ultimately help other people in the world.
It's kind of like a slap in the face sometimes, because you realize that like, wow, these are things that I have been avoiding, that I've been pushing to the side for so long. And now it's like when you think of meditation and yoga, it's not like, oh, we're all floating on a cloud. Like, it's really not that. It's you kind of facing like, these are struggles and it's going to be hard for me to get through them. That's the first step.
Shadow work is such like an intense thing in spirituality when it comes
What's
to like,
shadow work?
Shadow work is essentially like acknowledging like the darker aspects of your personality, where it's like mm-hmm. this is where you can be manipulative, this mm-hmm. is where you can be insecure, this is where like things that happen from your childhood that like affect you now, that you're just now realizing like the way you love is because of XYZ, or you know, so on and so forth. But like it takes a lot of like healing like your feminine energy and healing your masculine energy, and just like healing yourself as a whole, mm-hmm. which is like it's so much.
It's a lot.
And it's like I'm still going through so much, where it's like I'm still going through so many revelations, to the point where it's like there's so much more that I need to work on. But it's like it's so awesome, because it's like I'm aware mm-hmm. and like awareness is just the first step.
Yeah, it's like ignorance is bliss. Yeah. But do you want to be ignorant? Like, do you want to be living in this state of not knowing? I think that's then, the like, worst.
Unconsciously living, and then like think about when you're on autopilot and you're having like, I hate when this happens, you're having like a really shitty day mm-hmm. and then like you accidentally like take it out on a stranger. Like that is the worst thing in the world. Like mm-hmm. I remember when I was like a Starbucks barista, like, and people would just be mad and like they'd take it out on me, and I was just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, if people were just like a little more aware of like the actions and their energy and like how they're showing up in the world and to other people, I feel like we could have a really, really
better world.
Yeah.
Like, it's the first step, I think, into being a good person. You need to realize like why you're being a good person, mm-hmm. what's going to come out of that, mm-hmm. how it's going to help you, how it's going to help the place you live and the people around you.
Exactly.
Well, this was great.
Oh, this is awesome.
This was awesome. I like that this was like a natural conversation.
We get into like
the Gong.
Deep talks.
We're about with the twins. Okay, so Risa actually introduced me. I guess not introduced me, but made me aware of these twins, Maddox and Mason, and they're awesome. They really are. You can tell that they're kind of like they have a very good grasp on what they're talking about, and they're passionate about it, and it shows in their content. They're actually going to be joining as guests. But I want to thank you, Risa. And before you leave, I would like you to bang your gong.
Amazing. So
that we can initiate this transition. I don't know how that showed up for you guys, but
I'm sorry if that was a bit much.
We love the gong.
If you don't hit the gong at least once when you come into my home.
Did you even come to Risa's house? Did you even come? We're trying to connect.
I'm here. Mace, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Because of this.
Oh.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. Good.
How
Good.
are you guys?
Good.
We're
How are
great.
you?
We've actually listened in. Really enjoying the conversation so far. Happy to jump in on it for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty
We're-
hyped right now. So
We're
get
excited
it.
for your contributions to the conversation. I want to intro you guys before we get started so that people know who are these twins that we're about to bring into this. Where are we diving into?
Good.
Who are we diving into with? So Maddox and Mason are actually identical twins. We both went to the same high school, but we weren't really, I guess, aware of each other. But I'm glad that now I am aware of them. And their whole philosophy is just optimizing your mind and body. And they do this through their message. And I feel like your guys' message, also talking to you guys, it's like prioritizing the human connection to spirit and your nature. And they're very conscious, not only like as human beings, I feel like, but as content creators as well. There's like purpose that goes beyond the stuff that they're making. Maddox plays
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Max plays basketball at University of Colorado in Boulder, and then Mason is a full-time fitness and wellness trainer, and he's based in Idaho. And they are Indigo twins, which might be a term that you guys might be foreign to. Personally, for me, it was. I had to be like, Risa, I keep seeing the term indigo like in their Instagram. What does this mean? Can you explain? Would you guys like to jump in on that and explain exactly what Indigo Twins means?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll
Megan.
jump in on it. I mean, Indigo Children or Indigo Twins. That's a new term for me as well. Actually, actually came up recently, but they're actually characterized as souls, basically, that kind of have the spirit of a warrior. Looking to change the game basically in their own way, and use their own personal experiences and challenges that they've overcome, their own transformation, and their realizations to help, shift societal systems and culture into something and that's more suitable for the human spirit. And Mason and I like to talk about infiltrating, and that's kind of what we like to do because we feel like a lot of the ideas that we are bringing to the table right now, whether it's fitness or nutrition or our philosophy on spirituality and how we connect to nature, they are somewhat foreign to some people, and we feel like it's an honor to be able to bring these things to the table.
Right.
So I think what's really interesting about this is, how old are you guys, first of all?
We're 21 years old.
21.
22, sorry.
And I think
I can't count anymore. 22.
22? Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
literally what Risa was doing. She was like, am I 22? I think
I know.
so many
Age is just a number.
22-year-olds are like, again, age is just a number, but when you compare it to like other 22-year-olds in the world, a lot of people, even younger than that, they're so confused about what they want to do, what their purpose in life is. And for you to be able to say, like, we feel like we are souls who are revolutionaries, we're here to shift, I guess, society and the way that people think. That's a big statement. That's a big responsibility. And I think that's something that's very respectable. You guys seem like you guys kind of have it figured out what you're doing. And I think that's awesome, that you're aware of the fact that, you have a purpose. And Maddox, on your Instagram, which, by the way, guys, if you want to follow, it's at Maddox Daniels _3. In your bio, it says "here to help," which is such a simple statement, but I think is loaded with such meaning. What would you say that you're here to help with? How are you going to help? Who are you helping?
Yeah, I mean, it's a human being thing for me, and like you said, a lot of people our age and our generation, there's so much going on in the world. Things can get confusing. The unknowns in life can seem daunting and stuff like that. And I really feel like through my personal experiences and my philosophy and my practices and just what I've dived into over these last few years, that have brought a lot of empowerment for myself. I feel like these things can really help us as individuals kind of get out of our own way, And it's not about Maddox inspiring someone to be like Maddox, but it's Maddox, inspiring and sparking other people, other individuals to look within themselves and not look to reach in society to be something that they're not, but to understand that they are unique, they are powerful, and that, you know, it's more of an uncovering process instead of, you know, climbing a mountain and reaching enlightenment. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
who we really are is always here.
Mm-hmm. I think you're so right. I think when people are looking for their purpose, they are like on a search. It's like they have their goggles on or their magnifying glasses and they're trying to pick out clues about things surrounding them. But what you're saying is very interesting. You're saying everything you need to know is essentially within you. And I think that's in a way relieving as because a lot of my audience is young. They probably can relate. It's kind of relieving knowing that what you need is within you. You don't need to get to this college, or you don't need to meet this person or have this much thing. And you're saying we're
Yes.
here to help. And I think when you're here to help someone, it in a way it I guess means that you're maybe a step above. Like you have another layer of realization that you feel like other people don't. So you kind of have to pull them up, right?
I feel like
Would you?
that's, yeah, somewhat. Yeah, I mean, maybe a step above, or just, you know, kind of expanded. You know, you and Risa touched on, you know, expanding your awareness and having more awareness of certain things. And, you know, when we kind of take a step back and we can kind of see a bigger picture, you know, we can kind of help, you know, help hold each other's hands, you know. And, you know, that service and that helping each other out, you know, I've been helped out so much in my life. And you know, this journey personally for me actually started, and for me actually, when I started to help people, I realized how good I felt. And that alchemy, or that gratitude that I felt, has kind of, you know, propelled me into this life. And it's super amazing.
That's amazing to hear. I definitely think that like it's really interesting what you're saying, that you helping other people in a way has also helped you like expand your own horizons.
Yes.
On your Instagram, for example, in your content, you also touch on how I really like the analogy. For me, as somebody who's new to this, I like it when you put analogies in front of things. It helps me understand better. But you were referring to certain things as like 3D, 4D, 5D. And like, for example, when I'm watching a movie, right, and I'm watching it in like 2D, like a regular movie, but I know that it's available in 3D in the next, let's say, movie theater, I kind of get frustrated a little. I'm like, why would I watch this in like, you know, regular movie 2D when I could be watching it in 3D, right? So I guess for you, I'm wondering, like, does it get frustrating for you when you feel like you're kind of operating in a dimension that like you've expanded? How do you operate within society while diving so deep into spirituality?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole process of being called awakening, or discovering our divine purpose, living more consciously, it has been frustrating at times. But you did touch on the 3D, 4D, 5D, and you know, those are basically, you know, states of consciousness, and kind of where we're vibrating at. And like in a 3D, you know, normally how we're operating, or how we might operate when we're, you know, growing up or going through high school and stuff, is kind of like an existential isolation, really, where it's like me and then there's everybody else. And the expansion of our consciousness, and discovering of like who we really are, as like a manifestation of the same whole, really, you know, that's like a pretty deep concept. But that realization like makes things easier, you know, because we see everything's kind of like a mirror to us. Risa touched on everything kind of being here for our greatest good. And the awakening process is turbulent. The unknown is turbulent because we're kind of letting go of who we thought we were, and we don't really exactly know who we are when we're tapping into that soul stuff. So it's kind of like that limbo state is kind of crazy. But, you know, we do start to trust ourselves more, and trust this power that finding ourselves in the unknown gives us, and that we're unlocking. And it's pretty amazing. So existing within society, it all comes with the territory, you know, and it's all about just helping expand each other's consciousness, bringing a new vibe to the table.
So when you say letting go of who you've known yourself to be, that can be so scary. If this is, you know, like who you've known to be for like the 21 years of your life, like for me it's 19. For viewers, I don't know how old you guys are. So what happens when you let go of like you mentioned like transcend the ideologies or like the cultures. Like what happens when you let go? You like it kind of makes you feel like you're left a little like exposed, like a little naked, I would say. Like then
Oh
what do you
yes,
turn to? What do you turn to build that new, true, authentic you?
exactly. It's very interesting because growing up, we're so impressionable as young people.
Mm-hmm.
Society and culture, our relationship with our parents can influence this in certain ways, but we might grow up going through school and listening to certain, proposed authorities and stuff like that, and think that we have to be this and that, and that we have to, fall in line in society and kind of shrink, shrink.
Mm-hmm.
There's a quote that says, it's not our darkness that frightens us, but it's our light, because we're so powerful, we might shy away from that sometimes. And I just think that's something that I've, I guess, realized, through all of this, and it's important for everyone else to kind of be open to the fact that there's something there. Like Risa said, when you get into this, have an open mind because there's something there that we might not know yet.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual life kind of reveals truths to us that we've never even thought about before. So, and we'll get into Mason. We'll get into talking about some of the things that we can do, actively and consciously to start doing that. But that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, Mason, I would love for you to talk about. So what you do is you focus a lot on like the fitness and the physical training aspect of things, and I want to ask you, like, on a more tangible level, like how has bringing in spirituality into your fitness journey, how have they like benefited each other?
Well, I would say, first off, we're spiritual beings, right? So we're spiritual beings, but we're also rooted here in this physical reality, right? In these bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've chosen to and really uncovered and understood now. So when we understand that our physical bodies are our avatars here, it's what's allowing us to, be here, love people, take care of our families, just operate within this world we live in. It started to dawn on me as I started to, I guess you could say, cultivate more sovereignty with myself, that my training was not only something that allowed me to gain more discipline, authentic control, and just, I guess you could say, physical strength and power, because I wasn't very disciplined. I was pretty disconnected from myself. So it was something that kind of pulled me back into myself and gave me some avenue for me to exercise a bit of control over my life, because I kind of felt like things were all over the place at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to leave basketball and really focus on this, right? So, like I said, understanding that our beings here are rooted in the physical, it really kind of just catapulted my entire being when I started to not only focus on how I looked, but it really turned into how I felt. I talk about 5 pillars in terms of I like to call it multidimensional. We talk about sleep, breath, nutrition, our movement, and then also other things like grounding, connecting with nature. All these things are super important, and they're all things that are physical and things that are manipulatable on this level, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when we can start to take control of these things and understand these things, it allows us to, I guess you can say, elevate spiritually.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. I think a lot of people, especially when they're young and like you said, like like you can easily be manipulated. It's like these fitness ads or these health programs. They'll all, I guess,
Right.
put people into like cookie cutter programs. Like do this
Right.
workout this long. But what if you had
Right.
more to put into that workout that you couldn't get into?
Right.
What if
Right. And that's something that is important. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I think you need to like for me, my fitness journey changed when I started practicing and working out to make myself feel good rather than just look in the mirror and see the results that I wanted, because I realized that the minute that I start hearing myself, when I like tune in with, am I hungry, do I want, like, is eating this certain type of food making me feel good, when I started to tune into these, it's almost like it automatically made me look better the way that I wanted to at the same time. So I think the balance of the dynamics between spirituality and physical training, they definitely do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's very interesting. And
Go ahead.
another thing that training allowed me to do, Maddox and I talk a lot about the Trinity, mind, body, spirit. And it also allowed me to transcend these limits that I had in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
We think like, oh, the lower mind, the ego wants us to be comfortable, so we go into a workout, it gets difficult in this lower mind, part of ourselves telling us to stop or that's enough, but especially when we continue to push ourselves on the physical level, we're starting to shift our perspective and shift our awareness and expand our awareness of the ego, of the lower mind, and start to transcend that. And so we're basically working on the physical and the mental level, which allows us to come to that point of the spirit and continue to elevate that as well. So I think that's something that is huge.
Mm-hmm. And how would you, I guess, what are some baby steps that people can take to kind of rid themselves of these cages, these boundaries that are forcing them to think in a way, like whether you want to say societal, like ideology or culture, and it could be culture not only about like nationality, I mean like, fitness culture or mental health culture, and people who are kind of like chained in these mindsets,
Right.
but they want to take these baby steps into the spiritual, like higher conscious realm. Like, how do they
Right.
remove themselves from that? Because I don't think it's easy at all. It's what we've known ever since we were
Yeah.
born. It's not what's popular. It's not what everybody's doing.
For sure. No, I think something that was huge for Maddox and I was not only the introduction of positive practices, but the elimination of things that were taking away from our awakening or our expansion, our growth, really. So eliminating video games, listening to less music that is disempowering, like a lot of rap music and stuff you see today talk about things that aren't necessarily elevating. Eating better food, cutting out the foods that didn't really support a healthy body. So things like this, right? So not only did we introduce a lot of things, whether it's training or eating better food, meditation, cold showers, but we also started to eliminate, and I know Maddox talks about clearing space to allow these things to come in for us. So I think that's one baby step that a lot of people can take.
Mm-hmm. So basically I guess you're kind of going back into like the authentic, like natural way of living. It's not just like being up to date with things, but it's like asking yourself, what do I need? Which I
Yes.
think is very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Matt.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's important, and it's all about us getting clear on who we are. There's that confusion and that distortion when it comes to our sense of self. So if we call it's called conscious consumption. Basically, we have to be conscious of the things that we consume mentally, physically, energetically, and what we're letting into our field. And if these things that we're letting into our field on those levels are distorting our perception of self or confusing us, then we can try to cut some things out and then see how we feel energetically once we remove some of these things. And if we feel a certain way, if something comes up that we can address now, like a suppressed emotion that we didn't even know was there because we were distracting ourselves, etc., then we can see the power in just, creating some space. And I do agree. It's definitely about, coming back to that natural state, So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I briefly mentioned it to Risa, but we're called human beings, but I feel like a lot of the time we're human doings. Like we're always doing stuff, but sometimes you just need to take a step back and just be like, hey, like, am I comfortable just being able to sit with myself? How do I feel?
Right.
Like slowing things down, like you said, and not overanalyzing everything, and just like allowing yourself to feel your emotions and heal them before you can actually, because once I feel like you have done that, whatever you do start doing, you'll be a lot more efficient and it'll be a lot more successful.
Yeah.
Amen.
100%.
I like that a lot because being is really big, right? Because that's when we become conscious of how we're being, right? So when we become conscious of how we're being, like, oh wow, I was doing that, or I was doing this, like you said, it kind of creates a level of self-psychology, more accountability on a personal level, more individual responsibility, and that allows us to be more efficient as human beings. So yeah, it's great.
And do you think that kind of going back to that and being like a human being has helped you discover your purpose? Would you say you know what it is at this point, or are you still in the process of figuring it out yourself? Or would you say like you kind of have a better idea than I guess someone who is completely not in touch with their spiritual higher conscious self?
Are you asking Mason or Mattis or both of us?
Whichever of you guys would like to, both of you guys, I guess.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
You go ahead, bro.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, yes, I would say as a result of me leaving basketball, right, which was something that was never mine to begin with, and going into the unknown, I was basically hurled into the abyss. Take that from Terrence McKenna, and forced to equip myself and also uncover things within myself, do shadow work like you and Risa talked about, that has allowed me to see the things I like, the things I don't like. And one thing I've discovered that I really do like is understanding our body, our biology, our physical bodies and how they operate and how we can optimize them. And then once I started diving into that, like I said, it really allowed me to have a lot of experiences spiritually. So I would say yes, I do feel like this in terms of helping people elevate multidimensionally, not just with how they look, but how they feel, operate, move, eat, sleep, everything like that on the physical level is something that I definitely want to do in this life, and I feel like is my purpose, and it's something that if it's not my entire purpose, it's definitely a large part of it.
So taking this,
Yeah.
I guess, scary leap for you,
Yeah.
at the end of the day was more valuable.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because Maddox and I talk about the movie The Matrix. If no one's seen it, I'd recommend going watching it. But one of my favorite quotes is Neo and Morpheus, the main character, and his, I guess you could say, spiritual guide, are at the top of a building, and Morpheus tells him, he says, "Let go of fear, doubt, and disbelief,"
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Free your mind." So these are things that I guess I did, right? I took a leap, and I was afraid, I was, doubtful, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting when we go into the unknown, right? And we are basically forced to look at the parts of ourselves that we didn't want to look at when we were in the light or we were doing things that we were comfortable with, right? So it's very interesting, and that's why I encourage people, everyone that I come in contact with, the people I care about, to do things that make them uncomfortable. Every day they get up, they should do something that they might not be as comfortable with, whether it's going to do a workout or doing the dishes when they don't feel like it, or doing something. Yeah,
Mhm.
meditation. Getting in nature, getting in some cold water, listening to the birds, just something different.
Out
That
of the
might not be comfortable. Right, exactly. Yeah, huge.
Maddox, you mentioned when we were talking, I believe, you said, look at what you used to like as a little kid. Because I think when
Mm.
you're a little kid, you're a lot less like culturally conditioned. You're more of like a
Yeah.
canvas. And I think, like, for me personally, so ever since I was 5, I would be walking around with a camera in my hand and just talking into it. And just,
Yeah.
there was no one at the other end of the camera, but it's like, I just like doing it. And now I am still doing it like 15 years
Yes.
later. And it's something that
That's
I
awesome.
truly enjoy. Like with Risa,
Yeah.
she had mentioned that she would play with tarot cards when she was 3 years old in her mom's office. And here she is still doing it and still feeling like this is a part of her purpose. Would you say that it's kind of similar for you guys?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I think it's so important for everybody, and I think that's kind of one of the sleepers. It's one of the biggest things. Um, because we come into this world as little kids, just fresh consciousness, so curious about life.
Right.
Um, we're not really afraid of anything. If we see another little kid or somebody, we're gonna go hug them and say hi and smile, and we're not afraid to try new things. And for me, yeah, I've been the same way. I do little kid stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I ride my bike. I don't drive a car. I ride my bike around Boulder. I go swim in the creeks. I was with Mason in Idaho a few months ago, and we would go to the trampoline parks and just go exploring and stuff like that. It allows us to stay curious, and keep that fresh, open, expanded consciousness that's natural to us. Because it's almost like culture and society can kind of put that in chains, or limit that, or shrink that, or blind us to how expanded and how curious we really are on a soul level. So I really
Yeah.
agree. Like that little kid stuff, like understanding those little passions can really help us progress in finding our purpose. I love that.
I think that's a very valuable tip, especially for people that are listening. Like, if you're so lost as to what you want to do, maybe instead of looking at the future, go back to look at some of the times when you were little and you were a blank canvas. You were so much more raw, like you hadn't rushed into growing up yet. See what you maybe enjoyed there, and that could be some kind of insight on maybe that's what you liked in that moment, not because society was telling you to like it, but because your little kid brain thought that was cool. And I think, why not rekindle that passion or whatever it was that you were doing as a little kid?
Yes. I was actually on a team meeting yesterday with some like pro basketball players and stuff like that. And you know, there were some of our coaches and players on there, and they were just saying, you know, because a lot of basketball players, they play basketball to go to college and they don't go pro and they have an identity crisis, or they go play basketball and they stop and they have an identity crisis. And you know, some of the guys are just recommending for us, you know, as individuals to dive into some of this stuff that we liked as little kids and stuff like that, so that we can expand our perspective going into our adult life and not limiting ourselves to something that we feel like we have to do, or else, you know, we got to work a 9 to 5 or this or that, you know, just to expand our perspective and know that, you know, Mason and I speak about it all the time, but this is a new era. You know, our generation can really do things differently. We can build, you know, a new era of, you know, real unity, real individualism, real empowerment, individuality. I don't know individuals, but you know what I'm saying? Like a new era just built on those divine principles. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
I love it. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you guys, but before we, I guess, sign off, I want to make sure, is there anything else that you would like to get across? Any message that you think someone at the other end of this, whether it's one single person, you're like, I want you guys to know this. I know it's like a loaded question, but I just want to make sure that you have everything off your chest.
Yeah, I'll start and let Maddox finish, but I just want to say, you know, with everything going on right now, it is important for us to have an open mind, but one thing that's also important is for us to have open hearts as well, you know. And having an open heart, you know, closing our heart off can, if you want to go into the chakras, is, you know, it's you know, not pretty. I've dealt with opening my heart chakra personally, and just opening our heart and allowing that to lead us and guide us is so huge right now, because there's a lot of distortion, a lot of darkness and evil that's pervading the world right now. So we need some love. We need to spread that love, and yeah, that's what I'd like to say.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Risa, you know, is into astrology. You guys talked about that a little bit, and from that perspective, you know, there's so much shifting going on from an energetic, you know, on an energetic level right now in the world, and we can see, you know, everything that's going on, the shifts in the collective and how intense everything is, and it's a beautiful opportunity for us to you know, be open to you know, more truths and stuff like that. And you know, we just need to know that this life matters. You know, we matter as individuals. You know, don't let our parents, anybody around us, don't listen to I like to say, like, anybody tell us that this life doesn't matter and that we can't get the ball rolling on really shifting and transforming our life into something that, you know what I'm saying, we might not be able to see super clearly right now, but if that's what we want in our hearts, we can follow our hearts and go down that unknown path and sink deeper into who we are. And that's all an opportunity for every single human being. Like, that's why we're doing this podcast. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I think there's something so powerful in vulnerability, because when you're kind of stuck in your comfort zone, it's all you'll ever know. And I think if you're unsatisfied with where you're at right now, the first step is just taking that brave step of being vulnerable, letting in people that, you know, like for me, I think this whole like higher conscious spiritual world, it was something that I was skeptical to, but you know, with Risa's help and talking to you guys and doing my own research, it's definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things that maybe a year ago I wouldn't have even thought about looking into. And maybe for me it was because I didn't believe in it, or maybe it was because I knew that once I did start diving into it, I would have to uncover some things that are maybe a little scary. But you can't live in that, in, like we were saying with Risa, the bliss of the ignorance. I don't think that's that's not divine purpose, just like autopilot.
No.
At all. Thank you guys so much for everything.
Thank you.
This was an amazing conversation. I'm sure that we've helped so many people, and I wish you guys an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us on.
We're going to
We
be hitting the
appreciate it.
gong now. Thank you to
Yeah,
all
Have a good day,
our
guys.
listeners for tuning in. Make sure you guys follow Risa. Her Instagram is at Risa's Pieces. Maddox's Instagram is at Maddox Daniels _3. And Mason's is at Mass Daniels. And we will see you guys in our next podcast. Or at least I will. But make sure you guys follow them so you'll see them too. Goodbye,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.